Hey. Good evening, my dear Beat Radio listeners. Alright. Welcome to the show. It's Tuesday night podcast. I've got special guest with me tonight.
Well, hello there.
Athron.
Good to be here, mate. Good to be here. Good to be anywhere.
Athron.
Yes.
My man. We're live.
Everyone.
We are very live. Hello, everybody on Twitch.
Hey, Twitchers.
We're going on Twitch live. I've been telling Athron all about Twitch lately, and Athron's actually a performing artist. He plays guitar.
Artist is a strong word.
He's up front. He likes to to push himself on the public.
I like the way you kind of rubbed your breasts then when you said that. like what kind of a performer am I exactly? Is that what's happening now?
Like
that's how hard
right?
times have gotten these COVID times. I'm turning to stripping. Where's your dance pole?
Like most performers have to kind of be like a peacock, right? And
is that right, mate? Is that how it works?
Sort of shove their feathers into people's faces, right?
I don't know if I've shoved my yeah, I've definitely shoved a few feathers into a few faces.
Well,
if you want to interpret that any way you can, but I'd prefer to just throw out my peacock feathers from a distance. But I think they're pretty like scathed and burnt and dirty. Like I think I'm one of those peacocks that from a distance you're like, Jesus Christ, that like, what sort of bird is that? What sort of version of a broken down, half run over, scolded, lived through a drought peacock is that thing in the distance?
Well, I can't remember.
Part bird,
actually,
part
tell
mammal.
You the truth, I'm not sure.
Half platypus.
In Chinese horoscope, there's some. I'm not sure if it's a peacock, but it's something similar to a peacock. But I know some peacock kind of characters in astrology, and they're within my triangle.
In your triangle, mate.
My triangle.
Look at those gang signs you're pulling out.
We got.
Mate, you are literally...
We got me, which is ox, right?
You look like you're from part of Mexico pulling out those finger symbols.
Ox.
M9.
Snake. And then there's peacock. Right. And peacock.
You got a peacock in there. In the star signs. I didn't even know there was a peacock in the star signs.
Can we search that?
You must need a lot of stars to make a peacock.
I think it's something else, but it's similar to a peacock.
It's probably a worm.
With feathers.
Yeah, anyway. like a 3-star worm.
So anyway, my point is that peacocks, like yourself, because you're a performer, so
never been referred to as a peacock in my life.
You have to be a peacock to be a performer on stage, right?
Right. Okay.
To show your plume and to attract
beautiful plumage. Have you seen the Norwegian wood? Beautiful plumage.
It's a song, right?
That's a Monty Python skit.
Oh, right, okay. I thought it might have been a Beatles song.
Monty Python, mate. One of my favourite Monty Python skits.
Oh, it's funny. I saw Monty Python. They were playing it on Netflix recently.
Oh, yeah?
I don't know if anybody saw it out there.
You mean a rerun? Or
they reran all of their
Sit on my face and tell me that you love me.
And most of it was like... And I was with John. It's like, is this funny?
Well, the thing is, it's like, trying like a lot of early humour. Like, there's so much ground has been broken since then.
Yeah.
That watching that now, for a kid today watching that, they'd probably be like, "Wait, what is it? Did you guys used to find this funny?"
Yeah.
But so much ground has been broken. It's like,
now nothing shocks anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember I played in East Timor years ago for their Freedom Day, like their Hari Merdeka.
Hari Merdeka?
Well, not that you should call their Hari Merdeka Hari Merdeka, because that's in Indonesian, which is they were free Independence Day from Indonesia. But anyway, I was playing there.
Let's not go there.
Let's not get political. I was playing there, and then they had so I did this show in East Timor, and then after the show I went and watched them do this theatre production. And they were definitely, as far as like the train of theatre and humour and television and all that goes, they hadn't been hit with the current trends of the Western line of comedy and all that kind of stuff. So their theatre production was they were cracking. They were cracking. The audience was cracking up at the most full on just fart slapstick ass jokes.
Oh,
which
that we're in the country of slapstick, right?
No, but that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Like it was gold. Like it was good to see just this absolute, complete, like losing it at the most slapstick stuff. But that was just based on the fact that it hadn't progressed from there yet, like in other places. Like so, wherever it is, wherever the media is at that time.
Are you saying it's underdeveloped?
All I'm saying is, whenever something hits a place at that time, that's when it's at the cutting edge of hilarity, because you haven't seen it before. Edge, and so when Monty Python was out, it was literally the cutting edge. People were losing their shit over it. But now you show that to a Western kid who's grown up with the most,
But even myself, and I saw it back in the 70s, on the TV, on live, whatever, and that I'm saying to myself as well, like, oh shit, is this funny?
But did you not think that a lot of Monty Python was still like there was stupidly funny bits, but then there were still long periods where you just sat there staring at the screen going, what the fuck are these guys doing?
Exactly.
Because they would spend
really
like
weird, right?
Yeah, because there'd be a whole like 5 minutes from one skit to the next where a guy would just be like wearing underpants, jumping like a kangaroo through the countryside to get to the next skit, and you'd just be like, what is going on? But they pushed awkwardness. Like that's what I love about that English humour, is they play on awkward moments, like the downtime.
And also like it all seemed to be very homosexual as well. Was it?
Was it?
Was it?
Is there something else you want to talk about, mate?
I was just going to talk about homosexuality.
Okay, let's delve back into those years. What happened? I don't remember it being...
There's a lot of... The slap stick kind of style was a little bit...
a lot of English...
boys-ish.
Yeah, a lot of English humour back then had a lot to do with all that stuff. Like Benny Hill was very just overtly like... just almost pornographically degrading to women, but just that slapstick sexual innuendo stuff.
But also, Benny Hill was very much, female orientated, but it seemed to me like Monty Python's is very homophobic, or not homophobic, but
But it's playing on homosexuality.
Yeah,
not necessarily homophobic.
But that they were homo.
Oh right, okay. I don't remember that because I probably wasn't even aware of it. I was so
young.
Yeah, I was just young.
And as it turns out, the in this series they also touched on that because some of them were.
Oh wow, okay.
So
which of Monty Python are gay?
The one with the blondish kind of hair, straightish blondish hair, apparently.
Not Michael Palin.
Not Michael Palin. Michael Palin was actually telling a story about one of, I can't remember the name, but this straight blondish guy, and he would go and pick him up, to go to the show.
There's John
to do
Cleese.
the show.
There's Michael Palin.
Oh, there's all the main ones, but there's
the
a
crew,
core of
the crew behind them.
More, these other guys, these lesser parts.
Okay.
And some of it was pretty gay.
But a lot of that really overtly theatrical male slapstick humor at the time was quite. There was a lot of real sort of, oh my god! Like it was
look at the whole 16th century when they get all dressed up in wigs.
It's very Queenie.
And then the garments are basically female as well. The whole English aristocracy was pretty multi-gender.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? How that's that overtly like. Well, it's almost like going back to that thing that you're saying, being a peacock, It's like fluttering and flowering and showing off all your colours and all that kind of stuff, which becomes a very theatrical thing that you do, which I guess has got a very, does tend to have that sort of overtly, the homosexual world when it comes to theatre and going out, there's productions in the gay bars and the drag queens. It's so much like that, isn't it? It's just like blaring your colours and showing it all off.
But back in the 70s, the what do they call it? Androgynous style was everywhere. Like to be
huge.
sort of
David
semi-gay, like the whole glam thing.
Yeah.
it was very much more accepted.
It's
what it became later.
Well, it's funny because the look was accepted, but I don't know if actually being gay was. It's funny, hey, like how like being like dressing up that way was part of it. Like all the like you
absolutely.
said, rock and glam bands.
I remember in the 70s, I used to walk around with these sort of shoes with these high heel things on. At the front, I think it was a glam thing, glam rock thing.
Yeah.
When you think back now, it's like
you had high heels.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah, that's what you used to wear,
That is
man.
gold.
I'm talking 75. Probably.
Wow, like really just big. Like the whole
Big,
shoe
chunky,
was lifted.
Yeah.
Right,
Like,
so not like a heel lift.
not a
to
stiletto.
get
no, but the whole thing was
cranked.
like, 'cause
Arse
it was
muscles
cool.
cranked up, like the high heel for women. But just an actual
Bay City Rollers, for example.
Wow, what a trip!
That whole 70s thing. But at the same time, there was also, people like Lou Reed, and they came down to Sydney, and I remember, in GTK, which was on the ABC TV, and Lou Reed comes into Sydney, and he's just he's not androgynous, but he's kind of blatantly bisexual, or wants to be, like that in the media, talking about drugs, talking about all this stuff, and getting high, and the journalists are asking, "Oh, do you think you're having a bad influence on people?" No, I hope so.
Yeah, nice, good.
That
answer.
was.
I love it. Isn't that so?
It's a whole
funny?
different scene.
Isn't
really,
it funny how the whole concept of what was a bad influence on people was really based on if you allowed people to look into themselves and start to enjoy the inner feelings they had with themselves and the freedom that they wanted to express within themselves, you were looked on as a danger, because that kind of vibrant attitude of just going, I'm just going to cut loose and be whoever I want to be, that was almost a threat to the fabric that society was woven with. Like, people weren't allowed to break out.
And that's why you did it.
Yeah. I mean, that's why you felt. That's why when you did it, you felt free, and when you did it, you felt like you were being rock and roll, and you were just breaking the mold.
Well, rock and roll was basically giving the platform to break the rules, because these dudes in the 50s, 60s, early 60s, and they were breaking the mold of popular music, which is a little bit risque.
Yeah,
and it let everybody just do whatever they wanted to.
It always leads the way, hey.
Yeah.
And it's just funny how, like, the people that do it, if you don't have the excuse of being a rock star and you don't have the excuse of being famous, then you're considered a real rebel, or someone that's sort of a little bit on the fringes that maybe, back then, don't you think? Like,
but people were still living that lifestyle too. Because it was on the TV, it was on everywhere. They went and got their chunky heels. They got
within
their
the fashion,
their flared pants.
Yeah, within the main fashion.
And people, to be honest, when I grew up, it was like, the whole traditional setup. Get a job and get married and have kids and live in the suburb for the rest of your life. It suddenly just got thrown out the window. It wasn't. You didn't have to be a rock star or anything. You were taken with the whole tide of this movement.
Sure, but I think always the generation prior that was watching it happen always freaked out about it. They were always the ones looking at it going.
The parents.
Yeah, the parents and the people in authoritarian positions at the time would always look at it like, you shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be breaking that mold. You shouldn't be expressing yourself that way, because that form of expression doesn't express freedom. It expresses negativity. It expresses something that will lead to the downfall of society.
Yeah, breaking society.
Yeah, if you continue doing that, then everything's gonna fall apart.
Sure.
No, stop doing it. I'm a maths teacher. I can't handle it.
Oh my God! But at the same time, there's all these, drugs around the place, that were igniting the people.
Well, isn't it is hilarious that whole outlook on those particular drugs that were sweeping through, that were considered just absolute, the worst thing that could possibly come in, the scourge of society, the thing that was absolutely ripping apart families and destroying lives, was
actually doing good for the,
was doing
for
good
the community.
Was literally causing people to expand their minds, to think of new ways of living, to have experiences that probably made them reflect on who they were more, as opposed to the person that was sitting there just smashing bottles of whiskies every night, who was completely accepted by society, who was going to the corner pub or, finishing work by downing 10 beers and becoming, more violent and more aggressive towards their partner and less reflective and
sure.
breaking down their liver and all that,
Oh, it's not very healthy, alcohol. Oh,
I'm not saying I'm not going to drink alcohol.
Only because
I love a drink, but
Cheers.
but that idea that society has become so obsessed with alcohol being just this thing you don't even talk about because it's so accepted, whereas these drugs that we are just looked at as absolutely the worst thing to possibly affect society.
Yeah.
When you group them all together under the word drugs, it's easy.
The worst one is probably the most legal one of all.
The worst one is the most legal one. Oh, right, yeah, as in alcohol, yeah.
Yeah.
And cigarettes, yeah.
Well, cigarettes. Whew. Anybody smoking nowadays, just
Nobody
get rid
smokes
of it.
anymore, do they?
Yeah, I think it's totally pathetic to even think about smoking.
It's-
But people go out on a big night and they enjoy a couple of cigarettes. Good for them. It's just the addiction I don't like.
It's a funny thing, smoking, because I think it really does seem like it's going to get phased. It's phasing out so fast. I wonder if in a couple of generations there'll be cigarettes around at all. I mean, there'll always be a form of it. There'll be something, some kind of vape new thing that allows people to, because it's such a nice fluid action to pull something in and then blow it out and feel that, have something in your hands.
That kind of connects me with nightlife,
Yeah, and for a lot of people,
having a good time.
It's very much a connection thing for a lot of people. Like it connects you to the drink, or it connects you to the just the symbol of togetherness. It's symbolic for
Togetherness.
Togetherness.
It sounds like a Carpenter's song, actually.
Yeah, I mean, like you look at an Indian tribe back in the day sitting around a campfire passing the peace pop around. I mean, yeah, they weren't.
That's the trouble. The trouble with the cigarettes now, and they never talk about that, is the way
they're manufactured.
Addicted. The way they get you addicted, right? If you could just smoke when you had, the powwow or the big time, the big night out, it'll be fine.
You're out hunting all day,
Part
being
of a
energetic.
Drink, have a drink, have a good time, have a chat, have a little smoke, no problem.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like you're out all day, you're doing your hunting, you're gathering, you're working your ass off, you're getting your meal together. You go through all the energy, you burn it off, you remain fit and healthy. And then after all of that, after the feed, you're all sitting around together around the campfire, reflecting on the day and the work you've done. And then you pass around this beautiful pipe where you breathe in the tobacco and just tell a great story.
Preferably more than tobacco.
Yeah,
and you can have a giggle.
Full of every possible kind of thing that could possibly blow your brain out.
Oh, no, just to enlighten yourself.
Yeah, like I said.
Anyway, the trouble is with the cigarettes, since we're talking about cigarettes, is that they charge all these cigarettes with all these chemicals and stuff that make you more addicted.
Yeah, it's just geared towards profit.
So before you know it, you're waking up in the morning wanting a cigarette.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Athron.
Oh, mate.
We're
What's
talking
going
to
on?
Athron.
Are we recording
now,
it?
Yes.
Good to know.
We wanted to talk to you about your new album, the 10 minutes of echoes of
Heartfelt Echoes in a Digital Womb.
Let's talk about
It's
that.
a bit of a long name, isn't it? The name's longer than the album. It takes you 10 minutes.
Say that again.
Heartfelt Echoes in a Digital Womb. There's your 10 minutes gone already.
Of digital womb.
You can't even say.
So we got a digital. We got a digital womb, right?
Let's just go through what the fuck that means. So the idea is the digital womb is the idea of the very fabric of what we are now living within, as in we are now all longing for the connection because we're all very isolated now, especially now. We're all longing for connection, and we're all using this digital network to connect with each other, and we're treating it like this. We're trying to get back to this safety and the comfort of a place where we all feel connected, and we're doing it through a false sense of community, which is the digital world, and our heart is in it. Our heart is it's heartfelt echoes. It's what we're sending out is this longing as a human to be connected, but actually it's coming back as a digital sort of binary code, which is a sort of false narrative of what the world really is. It's like we're all reflecting on society in the social media world, which tells us what we should be, tells us how good we should be, tells us what we should aspire to, and it's a very, it's always the best of the best that we scan as we flick through things, and it really often puts us in a sense that gives us more isolation and a bigger feeling of inferiority and insecurity, and so that was my reflection.
That's a good point, but I think that's been the case for many years without influences and without online as well.
I think it's becoming more exaggerated with the social media world. Definitely,
well, yeah, it's more of it. Yeah, that's the thing about digital world, that it allows a lot more voices, right?
Yeah, a hell of a lot more voices.
Have you got the album on here online?
It's on, mate.
Here we go.
Just a little bit longer inside. Try not to waste it.
Oh man, that's totally sexy. I'm ready.
Just a little bit longer. The stars they
Whoa,
wait
yeah.
to take you after dark.
Wait a minute. What's this track?
Oh, so we're talking through it, are we?
Yeah, come on.
Is that what's happening?
What's the track?
This is called After Dark.
After Dark.
Yeah.
Still there.
So the idea of the album is each song represents a minute of lockdown.
Why a minute? Is it?
Well, it was playing on the whole digital social media thing where everyone just, if you see that someone posted something that goes for 4 minutes, you almost don't even want to give it 2 seconds.
Mm.
But there's this thing where the shorter something is, the more likely you are to at least give it a moment and see if it grabs you. So I wanted to try and use that format, which actually rehabilitates artists from getting their strong story across, because it forces us all into a position where we can't even tell a good, strong, long, deep and meaningful story. So I wanted to try and use that confined, limited workspace of a 1 minute Instagram post, but still put forward something that was meaningful enough, something that gave a story, something told a story within that small time space.
So that takes me to a point. Like,
what's your point?
My point is, what's the story?
That's the story. The whole story is that we've gotten caught up into this digital
This is number 2?
world of... This is the very end of the first one.
All right, okay. We'll take that off.
Well, that's the very
No, but
end
the
of
story... okay, there's stories, right? So, what are we saying?
So my point is, by completely
Is this it?
giving... Hold on. Is this it?
I knew that was coming.
Dropping the volume at the drop, mate. What are you doing?
Oh, let's make it a drop. Here we go. I should grab the guitar. Okay, that sounds kind of very Beatle-esque, 1967 or something.
Well, it's really, really lucky that I write generally with an acoustic guitar and my voice, and that's it. That's how I write, and then all the things that I hear in my head, I find it much harder to get out because I haven't reached a level in a studio on my own with production that can create what I'm hearing in my head. So I'm very lucky to know a guy called Andreas Andriato, who is a good friend of mine who helped produce did produce my dark folk duo Bullet and Cass. And he's such an incredible composer, pianist, creator of music. What am I doing? Okay.
Look at that.
Okay. And so...
Not to put you off your words.
So he co-wrote half of the album with me and produced the album. And it's his ability to take those sounds and everything that I want to...
Do you think it's like he has a Beatles kind of influence?
I don't think he's got a Beatles influence. I'm probably the one
More.
that's more influenced by all those kinds of things. I mean, I didn't grow up listening to the Beatles, but I'm so heavily.
You
I'm
listen
such
to
a,
the
hu- oh, a
Beatles?
huge love of the Beatles. Like, I mean, I got into the Beatles later in life, like
Oh, right.
in my early 20s. That's when I went deep into them, because I didn't grow up with them. But yeah, anyone that writes with that with a story like they do, I find, I'm just fascinated by people that have that larger picture with their lyrics and with the composition to their pieces, that they go in so many different places, and you could take something, it'd work as an acoustic song and it'd work as a full orchestral piece. That to me is a great bit of writing.
This is number 3, right? Now, there's a lot going on there, right? There's a lot of production going on there.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's what I love about Andreas. So I wrote that sort of on my own in the middle, almost exactly a year ago, just when the pandemic really locked me down into an isolated place up North Bali, and I wrote that and tried to get that big sound that I could hear in my head, but Andreas is the one that really helped produce that and get that full, just like I wanted it to sound like almost a marching band of ghouls and ghosts and demons sort of walking along, playing a marching band in the dark, and that a big sound, that it's a.
But what does that relate to?
Well, the song, actually, I wrote it after. I've grown up with night terrors, so I was relating my night terrors to the idea.
Night terrors. Well,
I'm a positive guy. Welcome to my positive world. A night terror is when you are so affected by a nightmare that you go into sleep paralysis, usually, where you open your eyes and you're looking around the room, but you continue dreaming, and you can't differentiate dream from awake. So it's basically hallucinating. Like you go to bed, you might start having a horrific nightmare, then you open your eyes and you look around your room, and instead of everything being back to normal because you're finally awake, oh my God, it was just a dream, you're still seeing a demonic evil creature in your room next to you, and they're reaching out and strangling you or doing whatever. And
is it? Wait a minute. This is because you have this restless legs syndrome.
Yeah.
Is that connected with that?
They're not necessarily connected, but I wouldn't be surprised if over the years my lack of sleep from restless leg syndrome and keeping me in a state halfway between sleep and awake, that I might have been. It may have caused more night terrors, but that's just a guess. I don't know the science behind that, because
But that sounds like what do they call it? Nightmare, right? Bad dreams.
It's the next level to a nightmare. Like it's I know
real.
A nightmare's a nightmare, but a night terror is like, I mean, as a kid, I thought that I was being attacked by demons, without a doubt. And my mother, backed that up because she was a Christian, and she would come in and say, well, you've been attacked by demons. She'd reaffirm it. But she would see me. Wait
a minute. I was brought up in a Christian house as well, but no one came in to say I was being attacked by demons.
Welcome to my world. Look, there was a few extremes going on back then, but she would see me sitting up in bed wide-eyed staring at the thing that was attacking me and still screaming at it, and watching me double over when it hit me and fall on the ground.
And you remember this?
Very well.
You wake up or something,
or
you're already awake?
No,
you're asleep.
You're awake. You don't, I remember having things attack me and then punch me in the stomach, and she would drag me to the toilet and I'd be vomiting, and she'd be praying over me, trying to exorcise the demon out of me. But I thought that,
wow.
Yeah, and then there wouldn't be a point where I would suddenly wake up and go, oh my God, it was just a dream. I wouldn't wake up, it would just slowly stop. And then she would explain that well, the demon went away because I was praying. But the we're getting apparently.
Maybe you should go to the next track.
Apparently, you just asked me what song 3 was about. Oh, fucking hell. Go to the next track. I'm going to go get another one.
Yeah, go on.
Look at
Yeah, we're talking to Athron about his new album. His new album is Echoes of the Nightmare. I'll get there.
Oh, fucking hell.
Anyway, you're back.
We're just going straight to
It's
wrong
called
town.
Heartfelt Echoes in a Digital World. And the digital world is not
digital
menacing.
Womb. Digital womb.
Sorry. Womb.
Oh, come on, mate. Come on.
I
How
can't
did
even-
you get that
I can't even
53
see.
53-word album title? How did you fuck it up?
It would help if I could see.
What was I
Anyway.
thinking? What was I thinking?
Right, digital worm. The digital worm's not really something, right? Is it?
Am I allowed to be metaphoric, mate?
You
I'm
mentioned
attempting.
You mentioned your mother before.
Oh, I don't know.
You know.
You know, you pushed me there, mate. You pushed me to these places. You pushed me in the dark corners of my own digital nightmare. You bring it out of me.
Not your digital worm.
I'm going to have a mental breakdown after this.
Heartfelt echoes in a digital worm. Okay, so you've had the nightmares, which
So
are
anyway.
not nightmares.
So anyway, let's get away from that. So my idea with that song was that, like, the digital world itself was something that you sort of got pulled into and you weren't really sure anymore what was real and what was not and what was awake and what was asleep. Like, it gets like that. You get pulled into a world where you're not really sure anymore what is that reality I'm looking at? Are people really doing that out there all the time, or am I just seeing that and thinking that they're doing that because the algorithms are telling me that everyone's doing that? I think that's a really very real place that people get to with digital
Well, you were talking
media.
about Saudi Arabia before, right? And the way it's influenced, we
Yeah.
don't want to get political, but, there's pools, it's quite easy to get pools of people if you got the money
Yeah.
to be pushing your agenda.
Yeah, I mean, anyone that controls that digital media is going to be controlling
Or
the,
nowadays,
the points of view of the people through their agenda and through the information that they
And it's not just,
coerce them with.
Zuckerberg, it's and Facebook. It's actually the people who are on Facebook that can manipulate this whole.
Yeah, I wonder where the line
agenda.
is between people. Well, I mean, I guess everybody's. It all works as like imagine those schools of fish you see, these huge schools of fish you see where a shark comes along and they pretend to be a massive whale, and they all move at the same time in a different direction, and that part of you that goes, which one of those fish is controlling that? Because they all seem to be moving at once. It's very hard to differentiate who's controlling the way the movement of humans is going. Is it one? I'm sure.
Well,
I know there's algorithms to control what people are seeing and stuff, but every single person's individual algorithm is also affecting that. So, is every single individual affecting the whole, or is the whole affecting the individual?
That's an interesting question, because also on the stock exchange, which kind of has the bulls and bears, and nobody's putting their hand up or a sign up saying we've got to do this or we've got to do that. It's just a feeling.
Yeah, that's a
right?
good example.
You
of
go
it.
left
It's
or
like
right.
everything's
You
just
sell or you buy.
which
know.
makes it so unpredictable.
Herd mentality.
Yeah, and it's like everyone's trying to guess which which fish or which bird in that flock is causing the whole thing to move and change.
Wow, it's powerful stuff.
And it happens so quickly, yeah. And then something.
And it takes everyone with it.
Mm.
And this year is a great example of that. With the COVID and everything.
Isn't it? What?
The herd no, it's not the herd mentality. It's the herd immunity.
Mm.
And the herd, but the herd mentality seems to be the one that's driving us all along, because nobody really knows what the truth or the right or the wrong. It's a bunch of people with a bunch of figures.
I mean, this is the crux of the situation we're in, that right at a time when that whole digital womb that I was talking about has become so extreme and everyone's just sucking on it, going which part of it is real and which part of it's not. That's when we hit with a massive pandemic where we are relying on that for our source of information and understanding of what the fuck is going on out there. That's why, it's so confusing.
Now we need herd immunity to save us all, But what track were we up to before?
Crossroad. Oh, my aching heart, so long torn apart. How we've soldiered on. How long must this go on? Forever alone. Forever unknown. Oh, now ravens come. Seek what's left of us. All these thoughts are gone. All our bones back together. Forever alone.
Well, I gotta say, this one's very Beatles, right?
Oh, yeah?
Right, Aching Hearts. Let's get to Aching Hearts. Have you had any?
I've had enough. I think I don't want any more of that experience to be able to write about it or know about it. Yeah,
well,
definitely.
I remember you had a really aching heart 3 years ago or something.
Oh, it was a while. Oh yeah, 3 years ago. Yeah, 3.5. 3.5 was the last one.
Is that?
I've had a few.
Do you think
majors.
that's affecting your album now?
I don't know if that affected this album. No, I don't think so. I mean, saying that, every experience affects the future of writing somehow. So that would definitely be caught up in an right deep underlying layer. But I wasn't writing as a reaction to that at all. I mean, that was long enough ago now that it's not an issue whatsoever. But the experience of having gone through heartache and all those feelings over the years, like there's been a few. I've had a few major breakups that have sort of broken me pretty significantly. That I definitely draw from, like that you just do, because you know how it, everyone does it.
Wait a minute. Did they leave you? Is that?
Yeah, like the ones that, I mean, obviously the ones that I consider the most painful breakups are the ones where I didn't want to, that it came as a shock, or that it came as a betrayal, or they were cheating on me, or whatever it was. That they're obviously the ones that hurt the most, and especially when it comes at a time when you want the most out of it.
And you're most vulnerable.
And you're most vulnerable, and you least expect it. And, I'm certainly not unique in someone that's experienced that. It happens to so many people. It's such a common thing.
Did it happen to you, like, can you remember the first time it happened to you?
Yeah, absolutely. It was my fiance. I was with a girl from the day I left, sort of very soon after I left home at the age of 17, through to the age of 21. We were engaged through my 21st year. And that was a brutal breakup. It was totally unexpected. I thought I was going to be with her for my whole life, and I wasn't old enough to have even experienced being out there as a single dating human that knew there were other options. To me, it was just her forever. Right. So that was a real, like, I had no idea. Like, it was a brutal, it's a classic songwriter's story too. Like, obviously now, these years later, I look back and laugh at the sketch of it. But she sold the engagement ring for smack, and she
lovely sort.
You know, and like, yeah, and she,
Well,
and she, you know,
it could be.
she fell pregnant to someone else, and it was
Hello.
it's this whole.
Excuse me. There's something going on here.
There's, you know, it's the whole. Yeah, it's the perfect song. It's the perfect song.
Oh, it's the perfect blues.
Yeah, it's the perfect blues. Yeah, you just need the harvest to be destroyed by drought and all the creeks to dry up right at the same time.
So, did you think that experience had, you know, a lifetime kind of
Definitely, yeah,
effect on you?
definitely. I mean, I still look back at that as a really significant, jarring moment to myself and having to then grow and learn how to deal with life and become an independent human. Yeah, I think it does for anyone that goes through that, especially the first heartbreak for anyone. I think is pretty significant.
So we're back in the dark again. What?
This is a
going
song.
on here?
Well, this song is obviously about the choices you make. So it's more of a reflection of like, okay, well, now that I'm aware that there's an outside world or another world that's drawing me into its trap, how much of it that is to blame when it comes to my bad situation? Because often it's when I look back at my life and all the like times I've got into some dodgy situations, it's very easy to tell the story around the situation that pulled you in, rather than the fact that you're someone that got yourself into that situation. And it's my choices as a human that have often led me into these situations. You know, my choices for extreme behavior or wanting to try out things that, you know, taste.
And what particular dead ends did it take you to?
All sorts. I mean, I've had, you know, dead ends. I've had drug overdoses where I've been pronounced clinically dead, and I've ended up in some pretty wild places mentally where, you know, it's very easy to blame all the circumstances of what led me there on outside influence. But at the end of the day, it still came down to my choices and my like, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that, I'm going to try that road and go hard in that area. I'm not going to stop until I hit a wall, you know?
So after those experiences, what do you learn from it?
Well, you learn where your boundaries should lie. I've always had, which isn't a healthy way, but my boundaries have always come through having to hit the wall before I decided to stop before the wall. Like I have to, you know.
Well, I know because you, from my experience of, you know, living with you, being with you over the many years, you don't know where the stop button is.
No, I don't. And like, you know,
well, why is that?
Yeah, I've often wondered that. I think, well, I think there was, you know, to get into a deep, dark counselling place, but I think that for a long time there was always something I was trying to avoid in myself that felt avoided when I was off my head or when I was in a place that couldn't reflect. And you can't really reflect when you're living so deep in the moment, which involves being high. Or like my favourite two places to exist was either watching a movie, like deeply involved in a movie that would like took me to another place, or being in and out of its state. Because those places like removed me from my own story and like took me out of self-reflection that didn't feel good.
Was that before you came to Indonesia?
Yeah, that's ever since I started absolutely before. Yeah, I mean, Indonesia gave me a bigger lesson in how to work out what your boundaries are, because you're the only one that's going to set them.
Hold it back.
Yeah, you're the only one. Like, society here and isn't going to give you enough guidance. It's up to you to work out what hurts and what
I guess
doesn't.
that's because you're a foreigner in a foreign country and you don't have the same checks and balances that people living here would.
Absolutely, especially when it comes to a place like Bali, which is like it's not your typical version of Indonesia. It's a party island. Especially when I first arrived, it was a very loose party island. A kind of anything goes party world that I
anything goes.
dropped into. Yeah.
But also up there in Jakarta was also very similar.
Jakarta actually was. Yeah,
Anyway.
we talked about that. Jakarta definitely. Well, that was next level underground.
All right, here's another track. It's all pretty psychedelic, you could say. This is almost Alice Cooper.
Yeah. Well, it's a bit of an old school metal thing there. Like I wanted to go. That to me in the album is the peak of the digital virus having control, and that's why it's written from the point of view of the digital virus. It's called. What's it called?
It's called Digital Virus 2.
New Parasite. It's called. So it's like it's the new parasite that takes over.
Right.
We give into the digital world, and then it takes over, and that's the voice that I'm singing from in that song is when you give into it and suddenly it controls who you think you are. And that's why it's a really aggressive kind of. Yeah, it's not a calm song by any means. It's the most aggressive song on the album, and with the most amount of unease. And then it's followed by a song that talks about getting back to just heart-to-heart conversations and organic relationships.
All my shadows fade.
It's a bit more acoustic.
Yeah, that's right. For that reason.
Conversations are gone to my ears. I feel younger with you every passing year. All our conversations are gone to my ears. I feel younger with you every passing year, my dear. I feel all the expectations and the fears settle into a conversation that's gone to my.
Okay, that's there's a lot of Led Zeppelin 70s kind of stuff going on there, right?
Well, the idea of that was literally going from that peak of the digital virus to getting back to the realization that one-on-one conversations rather than a million likes on an Instagram page are so much more soul satisfying. And then that's the second last song, so that's the realization of that. And then the final song is
that reminds me of being in a country cabin.
Yeah, nice.
with a fire.
Yeah, good, good. That's exactly what it should be.
Yeah,
because it's funny
that
how
whole sound. Yeah,
it's amazing how in those conditions when you're suddenly in a country cabin with a fire and no access to that digital world. Man, you feel so complete and just it's such a beautiful sensation of just living life to its extreme.
Absolutely, that's it. You're living life.
Yeah, and you're actually focusing on all your senses as a human body rather than focusing on the sensory experience someone else is having through a 2D platform that doesn't give you that sensory experience. You're just assuming you know what it's like because you're looking at a picture of someone doing it. But when you're on your own, free of that, and you're next to a fire and you're enjoying the warmth of it and the darkness that pervades beyond the light that it sheds, and the person that's sitting next to you and the warm conversation you're having with them, like all of that just adds up to such a. You really notice all those feelings. You notice the feeling of the glass in your hand and the rug at your feet, and when you walk to the toilet, you notice the change of the temperature on the skin of the balls of your feet as you get to a colder place. Like it's all those things become a real.
That's probably not exactly an Indonesian way of experiencing it, because it's always the same temperature. But where we're from, you get those winter moments.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm reflecting on my childhood there, aren't I? Because definitely, you get. Yeah, man, I'll never forget the cold
And
tiles of a
also
bathroom floor.
the expression and being someone, and being your full person. That's where this social media thing gives all this gratification to people, likes and comments and engagement. Whereas before, you would have to be just living your own life and doing your own thing and getting the real people in your life to get that enjoyment out of life. Now they seem to get this enjoyment just from superficial likes, and
Yeah, you can literally be sitting in the corner of a cafe.
you call them all the friends, but they're not really. You don't even know them.
Yeah, you would seek whatever you needed as a human to bring you that warmth. You would seek it in the outer world, in the exterior. You'd leave your house to seek it out, to find that balance. But now, like, you're searching for it on a screen in a corner without the need to actually associate one-on-one with other humans, and it becomes, you kind of lose that whole identity.
Well,
that
you
comes
lose
with that.
yourself, you lose connection.
Yeah. So much to be
There's
said.
a lot to be answered for
Yeah,
these tech companies.
Yeah, it's incredible, and I think they're all finding their way at the same time. Like that documentary, The Social Dilemma, that came out recently. The guy that was a big, I think he works for Facebook or in one of those.
Yeah,
big
he was part of it.
Yeah, and he's saying, and it's understandable, that at the time they were inventing all these methods for maintaining interaction, they weren't really realizing the implications of where it would go, and it was only once the machine was in full motion that they were going, holy shit. And he, as someone with a bit of integrity, was going, holy shit, we need to take responsibility now, because this is going in a direction that we can't control. Like, it's reshaping humans' minds and the emotional stability that they have attached to that,
and personal connectivity, which seems to be lost in many ways. And even now, like just going out to a bar, a club, and the music, and enjoying people's company. Now it all seems to be on these apps where people just connect through this superficial means.
it's so
and
funny,
and
isn't
they
it, the way
think
it works.
and they think they're really getting something out of life. And I think it's very shallow.
It works both ways. I mean, there's a lot of benefits to that, but then there's also a lot that's stripped away. Very noticeable, even just the effect of digital apps like Tinder and all that kind of stuff. Like, back in the day, everyone went out with the vibrant attitude to meet people and have this, like, who am I going to meet?
Have a good time as well.
And you would all be really wanting to interact, to meet new people and understand who they were and how they were going to affect you, and whether you were interested, whether you met someone by chance that you were really interested in. Now you go out and you can see that a lot of that is stripped away, because people already have everything prepped. Like, they've already organised exactly who they're going to meet online. And there's like much less openness, it feels like, between strangers, in terms of being open to meeting each other on that scene, because everything's pre-organised, everything's pre-set in stone because of the dating apps and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I guess nothing's ever going to stay the same as well. So you have to kind of move with the times.
You got to roll with it for sure.
Doesn't mean you have to be part of it.
Yeah.
I'll point out that I've been part of it, and now I'm no part of it. For that simple reason, because the people you're meeting, I figure you have no right to meet. There's no reason to meet them. There's no connection. There's no, and then the further you get into some sort of relationship with these people that you don't really have a right to be connected with, the further you get into it, the more you realise you shouldn't be there.
Yeah, right.
That's what I've found.
As in you would constantly be like going deep in conversation with people that you wouldn't normally ever be in a conversation with in any other circumstance.
Got nothing in common with them.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Besides some photo that you swipe left or right.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not because you met because you were interested in this thing or whatever it is.
Yeah, and I guess that can depreciate your willingness to then go out into the world and try and meet people on a real level. I mean, come on. I'm not going to say it's all bad, because there's so many benefits to it as well for a lot of people.
Or a lot of people apparently have met partners
Yeah,
through these
absolutely,
apps.
yeah. But I mean, it's
They've
easy.
probably got very shallow lives, though. But anyway.
It's easy to get to be judgmental and just go, "Oh, it's only good in the old days. Fuck all this." I mean, there's so many benefits to all this, which is why it all operates. I just think you need to be careful about where your boundaries lie and how much faith you put in it and how much you put your own self-worth into it.
Yes, I would just say that the majority of people you meet online through these apps, you shouldn't even be meeting.
You shouldn't even be coming.
Anyway, last song.
Nobody left here to impress at your days in. Relax your mind. There's
Where's
no
my
need to
guitar?
defend. Only your beautiful mind slipping into bed and sleep. Like
Let's
the
go.
universe dissolving into your dreams and sleep. Just sleep. But nothing matters anymore beyond your peace. Just sleep.
That's all we want is to sleep. All right. That's the point, right?
Yeah, the point is, in the end, it's just a soft, organic lullaby. You and another person. It's just comes down to the lullaby between you and another person, and the beautiful ability to go into sleep without any interruptions from the outside world. Just the beautiful, organic cocoon of you and communication, and that's why that last song is purely acoustic guitar, and even with a bit of a playing on the interruption of the sound of a cassette tape. It's that old organic analog sound. Moving back to that place where everything felt a little bit more heartwarming, a little bit more real, and a little bit less interrupted by the digital world. There you go.
That's Athron. Athron's got his...
Athron's flagged
get
on
this.
too much about his
Let's get
emotional
this
bullshit.
Heartfelt Echoes. And a
The
digital
fuck up.
which was released last week.
Friday, yeah.
Yeah. And you can listen to it on where? On the...
Yeah, Spotify, Apple, SoundCloud, Deezer, whatever you listen to.
And
Shit
it's,
on. It's all there.
I think it's really good. I remember listening to it when you sent it over a few weeks ago, and I thought it was very good. I thought it was the best thing you'd ever done.
Well, I really appreciate that because, I mean, I know there's a few good friends I have in my life that I know are brutally honest, and I know you're one of them. And, over the years I've given you music before, and I've, you've said, you've always been really complimentary on my writing in a nice way, but you're also very honest, and there's plenty of times where you've said, geez, you like to prattle on, don't you? Or you don't mind a fucking...
You're miserable, aren't you?
You don't mind a whinge. And so, I was waiting for all that, but I really appreciated it that you liked it.
No, I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the whole concept and the thing. Rock and roll, music, entertainment. It's a pretty complicated world out there. But I think as long as you're doing what you want to do, and... it all works out, really.
Absolutely. It's all about doing what you want to do. And, I have to remind myself of this every day. It all comes down to just enjoying the moment of creating it. That's the main thing. Because as soon as you disturb that and you chase validation from the result, you immediately start falling into a pitfall where you're battling with your own mental state and what you're worth. It's just not... That shouldn't be why you're doing it. You just gotta just do it and be
as a creative process.
As a creative process, you have to just truly enjoy the moment that you're creating. Because if you lose that for fear of what it means to other people and how it will validate you when they respond to it, you start to completely lose that moment of creation. You lose touch with it, and it stops being the beautiful release that it should be. Your personal diary of thoughts, your personal ability to express, and your personal moment in that dark room while you're doing it, because no one else is there when you're writing it. It's just you. So you've got to, if you're not happy with yourself, you're not fucking happy with anyone.
Well, on those words, we'll just get back to the other music. And we've had Athron in the studio tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. You can get hold of his Heartfelt Echoes in a digital womb on all the platforms around town. Great to have you on the show.
Good catching up.
Great
Thanks
to
for
have you
having
on
me in
the
the
show.
studio, big fella. Big daddy. Woo!
Yeah.
All right.